memorial services.
Both bargains, I'm told.
Absolutely, yes. I only did the introduction to that.
And you write 3 books at the same time?
Well, the Remembrance one was just a forward. I'd finished the Oxford Dictionary of Humorous Quotations, but I find it's easier to have one table in the study for one book, one in the hall for another book, and one table in the kitchen where I can get on with other things.
Did you hear Ned's comment on Loose Ends about 2 years ago when this programme was fined £500,000 by the ITC, which he thought was most unjust? And at the beginning of his programme, he said, at Loose Ends, he said, and I read in the papers, blah, blah, £500,000 fine. Well, throw the book at them, I say, and preferably my book, which made me laugh for the first time that week.
Throw all 3 at them.
But this diary business, it's literally everything you did over the last year?
More or less, yes. I'd never kept a diary. I mean, when I was a child, I used to keep them up till about January the 3rd. Then I would get bored. But Virgin Books, who'd had a success with 2 books of anecdotes, I think thought they couldn't squeeze another book of anecdotes out of me. But if I did a diary for the year, some might emerge. So as they gave me the incentive of an advance, I thought I'd better keep on keeping the diary, and so I did.
True to the form of this programme, we only got this last night, so we've only had a chance to skip through it. Are you? A lot of it's about, well, much of it is about the guests you have on the radio show. Are you terribly sort of revealing and frank and gossipy about them? Because if you are, they won't come on again, will they?
It's full of steamy sex, libel, all sorts of things like that. Packed with thrills and anecdotes.
And anecdotes about Martin Amis?
Well, no, Martin Amis was really a couple of lines from the... we were watching... I was watching... Did you see the... he did a South Bank show with Melvyn Bragg, and it was after he'd had that £500,000 advance for the new teeth and the new American wife, and I was watching with two friends, and one said he'd seen better caps at a miners' gala, and the other one was an American who said the last time he saw a bridge like that, Edward Kennedy was driving off it.
You shouldn't laugh. It's not fair, is it?
But Chaplin was acquitted.
Don't mock the afflicted. No.
Yes, yes. And what's this thing about this last anecdote of 1994 involving Peter Ackroyd?
Oh, well, Peter Ackroyd, as you've probably had him on, the great gay biographer and novelist, and he went to, I think it was Charles, what's his name, editor of the Charles Moore's Christmas party, and he saw the Minister for Social Security, Peter Lilly, across the crowded room, and he didn't know who he was, but he rather liked what he saw. So he fought his way through the crowd, met Peter Lilly and said, "What do you do?" And Peter Lilly said, "Social Security." And he said, "Oh, my dear boy, how awful. Come home, we'll see what we can do about it."
And did he go with him?
I have no idea.
The history doesn't recall. No.
It's a cute anecdote about after-dinner speeches.
No, after-dinner speeches I do quite a lot of, but I think the most horrendous lead-up to one was I was doing one at the hotel by the Birmingham Conference Centre. It was something like the Boilermakers and Wheel Tappers and Chunters or something like that. And about halfway through dinner, I was sitting next to the President, who said, "We had somebody from television a couple of years ago, dead now, bloke called Russell Harty, turned out to be homosexual," he said. "I think he brought his Women's Institute speech. He got up and the lad started chi-arking him after 5 minutes. He had to sit down after 10. That's not the best sort of encouragement. In fact, I did manage to finish my stint, but you don't go in bounding with confidence after that.
No.
Poor old Russell,
yeah. Absolutely. Alan Bennett gets a mention, doesn't he?
Well, Alan won his diary for 1990. Well, his diary won the 1995, the Nibbies one, and he's always the most economical and eloquent speaker. He'd gone on the book tour with Peter Carey, the rather more sort of sober Australian previous Booker Prize winner, and somebody had asked Carey to sign a book to Mum and Dad, and he absolutely refused on the grounds that they weren't his Mum and Dad. And Alan was asked, he said, on one occasion to sign a book and to put "Sorry about last night, I won't let it happen again, Alan Bennett." And he had this sort of terrible nightmare feeling that some biographer, Humphrey Carpenter or somebody in years to come, would track this down and then try and find out what Alan Bennett had done to this poor girl who he was so ashamed of.
He might get sued.
Yes, exactly.
Eternity suit.
Oh, you have a luncheon voucher somewhere at home in a drawer signed by my Madam Sin. Saying, saying
one of my best girls.
Sorry to have lost one of my
You
best
used to
girls.
work down there, did you? That was before you met Richard, of course. Yes.
That's where she met me.
You had your luncheon vouchers, didn't you?
Never without them, ever since. We've got lists of things. You are Mr. Anecdote.
I've forgotten what you say about John Gummer, but it is terribly funny.
I was going to ask that. Yes,
the week are a long time. And he's living proof that the that the what
Take a
what
beat,
is that?
take a beat. Right.
But,
Organic vegetables.
no, he
No.
made a speech about organic vegetables, and there was a line in the monologue saying it takes one to know one. But he is living proof that the weak are a long time in politics.
We got there. Yes, right, yes, yeah. What about Noel Coward? How does he inform your...
It kept cropping up because a friend of mine, Peter Greenwell, have you heard him on? He does the definitive one-man Noel Coward at the piano show.
Yeah.
He is
Is he
absolutely...
good?
Yes, he comes over. Oh, yes, there's nobody like him. And he was Coward's pianist right at the end of his career, and he used to go to rehearse with him at the Savoy, and one day he went in carrying the Evening Standard, and it had a great headline about people coming out. It was suddenly a new phrase for homosexuals to come out in those days. And Coward took one look at it and said, well, here's one old gentleman who won't be coming out. There are a lot of old ladies in Goring by Sea who still harbour designs on my body, and I'm not going to disappoint them.
Oh, bless him.
How do you remember all these things?
Oh, they sort of sink in, you know, and then if the
You
long
don't write them down as soon as you get home.
I do use the inside of my checkbook quite a lot. I don't use it much for writing checks, but it's very good for putting down anecdotes.
And you were saying before we came on that you actually have 3 different writing services at home.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, different book on each one.
We did it at the beginning of the interview on
Did we
camera.
say that on
Richard,
camera?
yes.
Well, there you see. It shows how
It's
seamless.
your memory.
It shows how seamless the conversation is on this programme.
But the novel, seriously, is a new departure for you, isn't it?
I did 3 with Carol Brahms, but I've never done one by myself. This is a theatrical novel. It gives me a chance to use all those anecdotes that I couldn't use in a factual book because they would have been libelous or because they were too embarrassingly autobiographical about me. So they've all gone in under the guise of characters. It's
But could anybody recognise themselves in there, do you think?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. It's about a theatrical knight who decides to put on a musical version of Oscar Wilde's Ideal Husband in 1953 for the coronation celebrations, and his gimmick is to bring his entire family, including his father and mother, who haven't spoken for 40 years since father abandoned them in Australia, together. And he's by no means an ideal husband himself, and one of his sons is definitely unmarriageable. So it combines the sort of look at the past of their careers with also all the agony of leading up to putting on a musical. John Schlesinger once said Hitler should have been on tour with a musical, but and it's a fairly tense time.
Well, listen, Ned, it's a long plug, but it's a joy to have you as always. It's very, very funny to listen to.
It was a 3-point plug, wasn't it?
3 points. Yes, definitely. Okay, thank you. We're plugging a movie now. It's a Hollywood casting agent's dream.
Fined again.
When apparently movies and books are apparently all right.
That's all right.
Denzel Washington and Meg Ryan both said yes to being in the same movie. It's called Courage Under Fire. It's